So this week's interview is with Mr. Levi Yarde, who I think is one of the youngest people I've interviewed so far. Levi plays for Stormzy, and for Emeli Sandé, so two massive artists, and he headlined Glastonbury with Stormzy last year. So in terms of gigs, he's got some of the biggest gigs going. Anyway, despite all that, he still remains very humble and he's a phenomenal player. So I really hope you enjoyed this interview. Over to you, Levi.
My name's Levi Yarde. I'm a session bass player. I'm 20 years old and I currently work with Emeli Sandé and Stormzy. When I was really young, myself and my brother were growing up. My brother plays keyboards. I think both of us dabbled around all instruments and we kind of had a period where we was probably a drummer, I was probably a keyboardist and we was kind of switching around until we found our definitive thing. Music was introduced to us by our father, who's a bass player. I guess that's probably my biggest inspiration. He didn't force it upon us, but it kind of came natural that we did music. Around the age of between 8 and 10, like bass became my thing. I grew up in church, so church musicians that were actually around me, musicians that were working in the industry, it kind of led me to believe that I could do that one day. Yeah, growing up in church, there was always older musicians that were playing and it kind of gave me opportunities. And my dad was the main bass player. The better I got at it is the more like I wanted to do it. I did music at school, GCSE music. I wouldn't say that was in any way beneficial to me. Before school, we went to Saturday school, which was called LMS, which is Lucian Music Service. We was playing with musicians. Everyone came from a different background and every Saturday that was like our equivalent of a football on a Saturday. From there, I went to secondary school, studied music. Then I went to college and that was more direct music. I was working and at college at the same time. In the second year of college, that's when I first worked with Stormzy. And I started to do a few live lounges, a handful of live lounges. And I think the word kind of got about. At the time, my good friend Matthew Brown, who is a drummer, he was the MD, and Stormzy, he had a live lounge in 2 days, and it was like 7 o'clock in the evening, and there was like rehearsal tomorrow. And then we got the call, and we then did the rehearsal, did the live lounge, and it was good. For me, it was great. Like for a 17-year-old, it's not the norm, I guess. I don't think I was as composed a musician then as I am now, but I guess I needed those experiences to make me the person I am now. So I was probably so nervous. But as I look back at those videos, like I feel like I did a good job and I'm proud of the 17-year-old version of me. I was a hungry teenager. Like I really wanted to play, I really wanted to work, I really wanted to get to that level of working. And there was that slow progression because before I was starting in the industry, I was doing small gigs, I was trying to hit everyone up. I was playing around London a little bit and with some unsigned artists, not getting paid for it, but it was just for the fun of playing and trying to get into the industry. Then I think I did a couple auditions, but nothing serious. And then that transition from that to actually getting in the industry, I started working with some label artists that were kind of on the come up, but they were small within that label. And it wasn't always like that high end, like there was a natural growth. There was a growth in my career. A lot of people would see me now and they're like, yeah, you jumped levels. To a degree, maybe I agree with that because I've done one tour and it wasn't like a small tour. Like some people, maybe their first tour is playing pubs or on a splitter bus or, yeah, my first tour was with Emeli and that was just under 2 months, a stretch. But yeah, I said that to say like there's some elements of my career that was just like shot up. But I feel like in the last 3 years, there was that growth. There was periods where things weren't like necessarily great and I was doing things and it wasn't like what I wanted to be doing. I think 2017, that's when I was 17. When I actually left college, I don't think things went like as smooth as I want them to. Like I really wanted to leave college and I wanted to be touring then. Things didn't happen like that, which was cool, but I guess things come at the right time because if I was to look after that, 2018, 2019, like I had 2 great years and I ticked a lot of things off my bucket list. I feel very blessed in my career, like, because I know not everyone got this like as quick as I did. Some people, it may have been 10 years instead of 3 years, or some people moved to London and like their circumstances have been different. But every time, I guess, everyone I've worked with or every time I get on stage, I do feel blessed to be doing what I'm doing at 20 years old and at the scale I'm doing it, I don't take that for granted. Like, there's many bass players out there that are much better than I am. There's many bass players that probably could do a better job than I already do. But so every time I'm in that seat, like, I try to do a great job. Like, I don't take it for granted. The thing with Grime, there's no live instrumentation, so it's kind of the initiative of myself or other musicians to find a part that's gonna go on top of the track and go with the track. Maybe you'll take the bass parts off the track and then make your own part. Maybe you'll incorporate the two things and just finding the right part that's gonna sit and it's not gonna take away from the record, and something that Stormzy himself is gonna be happy with, because he's very meticulous with his music. He doesn't want the track taken away from, but at the same time he allows music to go from the track to a live show. Just finding the right thing to play, I guess. I feel like I do what I want. We have the MD right now, who's Kojo Samuels. Stormzy, I guess he is the director of his own show, and if there's something he doesn't like, it's not gonna make it to the show. But at the same time, for what I play and what I do, like, I make my part. It's very rare that Kojo would speak to me unless he really wants something. He allows me to do my thing, and usually I get that a lot with MDs. It kind of makes me feel good because it like makes me think that I have a good initiative. Emeli Sandé, it's a great gig. It's a lot more musical and there's a lot more to it. There's a few styles in there. There's a lot more detail in the songs musically, as a bass player as well, translating from what was on her new album and to a live set for me was hearing what was already there and then kind of making it my own. There's different styles, so some songs I was playing P-bass. Before Emeli Sandé, I'd never touched the P-bass. So the more I played it and the more I listened to some songs with like Motown songs and modern songs with P-basses on it, I came accustomed to playing P-bass, and then I was able to bring that to the actual set. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I had to think a lot to play that set. And when we was on tour, it was a 90-minute set, and I've never played a 90-minute set in my life, maybe once. I predominantly play jazz basses. I think from when I first started in the industry, the only thing that's ever been in my hand is a Fender jazz bass. Maybe synth bass, depending on the gig. I currently use the Roland System 8, and then I have GK amps and 410 cabs. It's a simple setup. I use Dunlop strings at the minute, which is really good. They last long, which is what you need when you're touring, because I don't really like to change strings too often because I hate the sound of fresh strings, like when it's all buzzy. At the same time, to bring the character out of your bass, you're gonna need fresh strings. And when you're playing night after night, your strings are gonna go down. But Dunlop strings do really well to stay at a good level and still remain bright after a few shows. Glastonbury was incredible. That's definitely going to be one of the things that I hold on to for the rest of my career. The experience was amazing. For such a big show, a lot went into it. Rehearsal times, preparation. I enjoyed every second of it. Something so big, a lot goes into it. We spent between 2 and 3 weeks in rehearsals and then production rehearsals, working with my brother on keys and Matthew Brown and Luca Ferroni, which I've do Emeli and Stormzy with, and some guys on horns and Kojo Samuels as the MD. Musically, it was great. Some guys inspired me. Like, when I play with great musicians, it inspires me to play better, I guess. If I'm not playing with great musicians, I guess I won't sound or be inspired or feel creative as much. We didn't play the full set, but we had a great segment in the set. Seeing the actual production that went into it, like, was amazing. And then going from production rehearsals to actual pyramid stage, that feeling, being there all day and seeing everyone on stage before us. Like, we saw Lauryn Hill, George Ezra, Bastille. And as the day went forward, it was like countdown to our time. And nerves were there. Like, I've never headlined a festival, let alone Glastonbury being one of the biggest festivals in the world. So nerves were there. Like, I was nervous, but having my brothers alongside me kind of kept me composed, and I feel like the weight was upon everyone's shoulders, including like from Stormzy down to probably the Tex. Like everyone had that same weight, but it was really good. Then when it came to playing, that feeling of playing in front of so many people, like, and knowing the whole world is watching. And before the show, I was like nervous, like taking it out on my tech. I'm like getting onto him. I'm like, you ain't got my settings right. Like, take a picture of me. Like,
Just give him a shout out now.
Dean, he was amazing tech. I learned that being a great bass player and being a great musician is two different things. There's a lot of great instrumentalists that play their instrument well, but then they get into a band setting and they can't convey the greatness as a instrumentalist and like transform it into being a great musician. Like they don't have that same effect that they would do playing by themselves, playing in a band, playing behind an artist. Like the focus isn't us as musicians, it's the music and the artist. And you gotta do your job in playing behind them and still doing a good job as being a musician and playing the song to a great level and kind of connecting as musicians. And I think like that's the real main job as a bass player or any musician, just playing the music great. Being able to do things like short notice, like being able to retain information in your head when like things are given last minute, being able to retain. I feel like is a lot more just to be then being great at playing bass. That's something I didn't really understand when I was younger because I thought maybe you had to be the best bass player to be the best session bass player, which is totally not true. And a lot of people will probably fail because they can't channel what they do on bass in a working environment. First of all, I'm going to put a disclaimer, I don't feel qualified to give anyone advice because I'm still on that same journey as, I guess, that young person, and I'm taking advice. But if I was to give advice from my own experiences, I guess I would say definitely listen to music outside of church music. That's going to break you away from what you already know. How far you want to go into that is up to you. Like, not everyone wants to dabble in every genre, but I guess whatever you want to do, listen to that. So when I was probably 17, I was listening to people that were doing the session gigs, and whether it be here or America, and I was kind of studying what they were doing and how they were playing and how I could kind of make my playing that, because they're obviously doing something right, that's why they're working. It's kind of simple, like study what you want to do. If you want to be a mathematician, you're going to study maths. Like, I'm not going to study jazz and then say I want to play in the pop world or play behind an artist, because that's not, it's two different things. I guess if you want that, then you could study that. You could do it all if you want, but I guess if you want to play behind an artist, like go back, look at live shows, look at bass players that's already done it and people that are successful from doing it. There's many people here, we don't actually have to look to America just for inspiration. There's many people that I was looking and watching their videos when they were working with playing behind artists like Michael Hamilton, Joey Grant, Freddie Thompson, Aaron Powell, Lawrence Insula, Steve Lewinson, who's my cousin, all that are here. And I was watching them to see what they were doing and how they were playing. And it wasn't about being the flashiest, it wasn't about doing all the tricks, but it was being a great song player and being a great musician. He probably is one of the top players in the country, but it's like, it's more than that, because when I watch him play a gig, he's not doing like 5% of his ability. We were on the same bill in September at Radio 2 High Pop, and I watched him, and it's like, for what he can do, it was just proving my point of like, it's not about all the fancy tricks. For what he can do, he's not giving all of that. Like, he's being a strong bass player and playing the music's so great that he's been on that gig so long. That's inspiring to me. I love Off the Wall. I love that album. A lot of Raphael Sadiq stuff. I like some Steely Dan. I love Anthony Jackson, what he did with Shaka. Yeah, there's a few albums. I think I would appreciate them. I appreciate them. I wouldn't say they've necessarily made me the bass player I am. There was a lot of music that I was listening to when I was younger. I've absorbed so much that's made me into the musician and the bass player I am, that I can't even pick out what came from where. But I feel like the more I listened was the more my ears were open, I guess. Yeah, those albums I love.
Ooh. If you can.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah. Here and there, and I'm probably gonna stop doing them because I can't. If I'm not putting 100 into it, like there's actually no point. And I could turn up to some functions and I might not know the set, and I'm just like there just to be there, and it's like it's really bad because there's some people that would put 100 into that and they might need the gig. I don't need the gig, so I'm probably gonna stop doing them. Definitely not. I wouldn't do that, man. If there's one thing that like I would never be is the front man. I wouldn't say never, but 9 times out of 10, I could say I'm not gonna be the front man. People like to be at the front, and people see play behind artists, and they're like, I want that recognition. I'm like, no, this is like actually what I enjoy doing, being at the back and being a part of it all. Like, I don't want to be at the front. Touring on a major scale, continue working with major artists. There's other things outside of playing that I want to do. But yeah, like for the next, I would say 5 to 10 years, this is what I want to be doing. Like this is what I've wanted to be doing since I was a young age. So to be actually doing it is a blessing, and I want to continue doing it. I feel like each year I'm going up a level from 17 to 18 to 19 to 20. This year I'm hoping to go up another level, and then just want to keep on doing the same thing. I think I might branch out, do other things within playing, maybe not behind an artist, but still finding out. Like, I don't have it figured out. I'm 20 years old. I wouldn't rule out anything.
So I really hope you enjoyed that interview with Levi. Most of you will be aware that since we recorded that interview, Stormzy completely tore up the Brit Awards 2020. And obviously, Levi couldn't really say anything about that in the interview, but he kindly sent over a video from backstage at the Brit Awards to kind of show us the gear he was using and show it was like backstage at the Brit Awards. Anyway, amazing stuff. You can watch that clip now. And please go and give both our Instagram accounts a follow. I'll put links at the bottom of this video. All right, take care. Thank you very much.
Just wanted to do a quick rundown of my gear. This is what I'm using on the Brit Awards show with Stormzy tonight. First off, we got my Fender bass, Fender Ultra, which is fairly new. This is my first time using it. We got my Elite, which is my backup. Hopefully we won't have to use a backup, but it's just there just in case something happens. Got the Gallion & Kruger 410, RB 1001 and the Avalon DI. Got my sub. Haven't had a sub in my set for 2 years, but it's nice to have it back. Got the System 8 keyboard roller, where I'm playing a lot of 808s and for a couple songs. A few pedals. We got cling film over it because there's a rainfall. There's water dropping from. There's water from coming down on the stage, so I got to protect the pedals, kind of protecting the back of my amp so nothing gets damaged. But I got this switcher system where I could change sounds. I'm not using much pedals on this gig, but I got a compressor, a driver, distortion, EQ and octave. Usually I would use that on another gig. Got polytuner and a line selector. This is my gear. Everyone else is over there. Just the main stage is there. This is it. O2 Arena.